Business Radio. 101.9 FM.
To deny you, all of my blessings are divine, oh. When I look around, oh, all I see now your hand, oh.
Oh my daddy, oh, when it's hour, you didn't make us sweet, oh. This your grace, oh, in out, oh, you didn't speak for me, oh.
Your grace, they overflow, from my head down to my toes. Yanni, your love is ever sure, I will let the whole world know. Chineke. Now you are the father. Lord, you are great. Lord, you are great. You are greatly to be praised. Cause he did happen as you talk on Papa. Thank you. Lord, you are great. You are greatly to be praised. Cause he did happen as you talk on Papa. Thank you. Now you be my activity. Cause he did happen as you talk on Papa. Thank you.
Delay if I call him in a cha-cha-cha. Everything I come for me, not get time for yama.
I can't explain the wonders of your presence in my life. Not only you be God, I know it no go fit to life. For the me for you, I throw a salam salama. Oh yeah, I praise you forever. Yeah.
When you can't come, you go know who the blessings they follow. From the north side to the south side, send a Jesus be the show. Lord, you are great. You are great. To be praised. Cause he did happen as you talk on the Bible. Thank you. Lord, you are great. Lord, you are great. You are ready to be praised. Cause he did happen as you talk on the Bible. Thank you. Jehovah, who hold your mouth. Can you be my activity? Cause he did happen.
If you're just joining us, you're welcome to the Focus on Z101.9 FM, your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio. And from news around the world, in Norway, a court in Norway has sentenced a former general practitioner, Anne Bai, to 21 years in prison for the rape and sexual abuse of dozens of women in a case that has shocked the country. Bai was convicted of 70 counts of rape and sexual assault, along with 82 counts of abusing his position as a doctor, and that's according to Norwegian media. The crimes occurred during medical examinations in the small town of Frosta near Trondheim, where Bai practiced for years. The case has sparked national outrage and renewed scrutiny of patient safety and medical oversight. And in Russia also, Russia has launched large-scale drone and missile strikes across Ukraine early Friday, killing at least 3 people and injuring 49 others, according to President Zelensky. The attacks targeted the capital Kiev, the city of Lutsk, and the Ternopil region in the country's northwest. Russia's defense ministry claimed the strikes were retaliation for terrorist attacks by the Kiev regime and said were aimed at military sites. And also, Nobu, the Pakin Lama controversially appointed by China's Communist Party, has pledged to make Tibetan Buddhism more aligned with Chinese values. Installed by Beijing in 1995 in defiance of the Dalai Lama's chosen successor, a 6-year-old boy who later disappeared, Nobu is widely dismissed by Tibetans as an imposter. While the Dalai Lama's chosen Panchen Lama remains missing, Nobu regularly appears in state media, echoing party rhetoric and supporting China's policy in Tibet. And also, an overnight attack on a United Nations food convoy in Sudan has left 5 people dead and halted critical aid deliveries to starving families in North Darfur's Al-Fashir, UN's agency said on Tuesday. According to a joint statement from UNICEF and the World Food Programme, several others were injured, multiple trucks were burned, and vital humanitarian supplies were destroyed. The agencies did not identify the attackers but called for an urgent investigation, condemning the incident as a violation of international humanitarian law. And in Gabon has announced its intention to unilaterally withdraw from a long-standing fisheries agreement with the European Union 18 years after the deal was signed. The 2007 agreement allowed European vessels to fish in Gabonese waters in exchange for financial support to Gabon's fisheries sector. President Nguema criticized the arrangement as lopsided, claiming it has disproportionately benefited European fleets while providing minimal returns to Gabon and raising concerns over resource exploitation. And Ghanaian citizens no longer need traditional visas to visit Morocco, following a new agreement between the two countries. Ghana's Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa announced that the policy takes immediate effect, allowing travelers to obtain an online travel authorization within 24 hours instead of applying through the embassy. The move was part of key arrangement reached during Ablakwa's 2-day working visit with Morocco's foreign minister. A news in Ghana, Patricia Esiedua Esiama, popularly known as Nana Agrada, this past week has been sentenced to 15 years imprisonment with hard labor by the Accra Circuit Court after being found guilty of defrauding by false pretense and charlatanic advertisements. The conviction follows her widely publicized claims in October 2022 that she could double money for congregants at an all-night service. Scores of people reportedly handed over large sums of money in hope of financial miracles only to be defrauded. The court found her actions to be deliberate and exploitative, targeting vulnerable members of society. And in addition to the custodial sentence, she was fined 300 Ghana cedi with a default sentence of 30 days imprisonment. Her defense team has announced plans to appeal the verdict or the decision of the court, describing it as overly harsh and influenced by her public reputation. The legal team contends that the court shall have acquitted her on one more count due to insufficient prosecution evidence. While many members of the public have welcomed the sentence as a bold step against fraudulent spiritual schemes, others, including some of her followers, have expressed disappointment, claiming the trial infringed on religious freedom. Nana Grada has urged her followers to remain prayerful and steadfast in their faith. Thank you very much for staying with us, and if you're just joining us, you're welcome. You're just joining us on the Focus on Z101.9 FM. We'll take a short break here, and as I said, my guests are well seated in the studio to help us do a proper analysis of our inflation status and why our fuel prices must increase. Don't go away, stay tuned.
101.9 FM, your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio. You're tuned in to Z 101.9 FM, leisure, and business radio.
What you bro?
Anything to eat, I don't mind the menu. Looking for work but no degree. Uncle go help but he no be free. I read oh papa, that you supposed to be my father. Before long things that they go better. Blessings came to you in that letter. Your relative left a wheel of fortune. Ever since joy has been your passion. Make you never forget to say that was see, I see bless you. Make you never forget to say that was see, I see bless you. Make you never forget to say that was see, I see bless you. Make you never forget to say that was over 3 years since I started singing. Quit my job and regular pay, new beginning. There are times that I have wished the money was flowing, and to make matters worse, it be like things were not moving. Second manager, sent away, heavy depression every day. Our clay, oh papa, why have you forsaken your daughter? But each day things are getting better. Brand new team, the future is brighter. Counting my blessings is too hard to number. Monday to Sunday.
Indeed, you did not forsake us yesterday. I guess it's time to say a very big thank you to all our followers and all our listeners who joined us yesterday at the High Life Cruise. I can't describe how we all felt, but it was over the roof. Many thanks to everybody who spent time here with us, anybody who came to jam with us to the tunes of Akwabwa, Samuel Owusu. Extremely grateful. Thank you so much for spending your holiday with us and for making it a memorable event. Much appreciative of it. And I can't overly emphasize how we enjoy the tunes from Aduma. I can't imagine. I did not think that we were going to be this excited. But yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Samuel Owusu, Akwabwa, Aduma. They took us over the roof. And again, a big thank you to all our cherished listeners and followers who joined us, all our friends who also came around. Thank you so much. It's still the brand of Z101.9 FM. If you haven't followed us yet on our social media platforms, I do not know what you're doing. You can always listen to us on ZFMGH on our Facebook platforms. Around the world, you can listen to us at www.zmultimedia.com. Always make sure your dial in your car, on your car radios, on your phones, or your radios, keep that dial logged on 101.9.
Make you never forget to say that was see, I see bless you. Make you never forget to say that was see, I see bless you. Make you never forget to say that was see, I see bless you. Make you never forget to say that was
Z101.9 FM.
So again, if you're just joining us, it's the Focus on Z101.9 FM and your most authoritative Saturday morning current affairs show. Today on the Focus, we are going to be discussing the inflation drops. Indeed, we have noticed in recent times that our figures or our economists or our financial experts have been telling us that our inflation has been dropping significantly, such that as of June, our inflation has declined to about 13%, which marks an improvement from statistics we had seen somewhere from last year. Now, just when we could celebrate the drop in inflation because we had been promised by our financial experts that the inflation is going to be reflected in our pocket, And indeed, we have started seeing some reflections, especially on fuel reduction. We have been informed that fuels are going to be increased by 1 cedi per litre. Now, this morning, we're going to be discussing what exactly it means. Why must we increase fuel in that regard, especially when our inflations are dropping? Shouldn't we now have a lot of money in our reserves that we can use to solve whatever problem this 1 cedi litre is going to solve? We were told that yes, there's a lot of debt in the energy sector, but it's the best approach to introduce a 1 cedi levy where Ghanaians are consistently complaining of increase in levies each day. Wherever you go to, you see a levy somewhere. You go and buy food, you see the price of the food, and you see all the levies included, which has exponentially increased the price. We're going to be looking at it and have in studio my guests who are experts in the field. I have with me Mr. Richard Amohene, who is a tax analyst. Mr. Amohene, you're welcome to the show this morning.
Thanks so much.
Right, and I also have in studio Dr. Phyllis Larry Sylvie, who is a development economist. Doctor, you're also welcome.
Thank you for having me this morning.
I much appreciate it. Thank you for taking time off your very early morning schedule. I know it was raining and you could have been lying in bed relaxing, but all for the love for Ghana, we find ourselves here to discuss matters which affect our growth as Ghanaians. Many thanks for showing up this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and I must say that you are looking particularly African, which reflects the true values of a true African. Now, I've seen that there's a huge move that we must support made in Ghana goods.
Sure.
So I'm very happy that everybody here is well cladded in the made in Ghana goods. So then I think that you are all competent to speak to matters to Ghana.
Sure.
All right, thank you very much. Now let me start with Dr. Sophie.
Yes.
This inflation thing, we might have discussed in times past, but I had a conversation with somebody who was asking me that this whole inflation thing isn't it just a figure thing? Isn't it just a play of figures? I mean, since you are in the economic space, for the benefit of our listeners, can you help us understand when we say inflation? What exactly is it? So that when it's going high or going down, what does it mean?
Okay. So, good morning once again, and good morning to our cherished listeners and viewers online as well. Good question, Atakra. When we talk of inflation, it is actually the general rise in the prices of goods and services over time, which then reduces the purchasing power of household. And when we talk of purchasing power, that is the ability of household to be able to acquire goods and services. And when it happens, it triggers excess demand over supply, and therefore prices of goods and services will automatically shoot up. So that is one of the causes. The other cause is what is called the cost push, and that one happens at the supplier side when the cost of production is very, very high. These producers are also not Father Christmas. They will tend to pass on the extra cost to consumers. Therefore, it will trigger the price at which the consumers or they will sell to consumers or households. So that is one aspect of it. Another aspect is, when your currency loses its value. For example, in Ghana here, we actually depend heavily on importation or imported goods, and so when your currency loses value, as we saw in the past administration, you could see that it automatically cause what is called exchange rate pass-through effect, and therefore it will cause the cost of import to be high, and then the importers will pass on the cost onto us. So it leads us to a component of inflation called imported inflation. You understand?
That means that inflation, that imported inflation, is literally imported from other countries.
You can say yes, technically more than that, but it's actually as a result of the fact that when importers want to go and import goods and services, they will have to change the local currency into the foreign.
Okay.
And then before they can actually import. Now, the more they demand the foreign currency within your country, it creates a downward pressure on your local currency.
Yeah.
And so therefore your currency tends to lose its value, and that will trigger higher prices of goods and services in the economy. So that is another cause of that. Then we have another one that people less talk about. It's called built-in inflation or wage price spiral inflation. How does it happen? When the cost of living goes higher, workers, especially the public sector workers and even the private sector workers, will demand higher wages. And so when the higher wages comes, it will trigger higher demand, and therefore businesses will also respond by increasing their prices. And so that is also another cause of that. So inflation, by technical definition, as I said, the general rise in the prices of goods and services. A typical example is, if let's say last year or last month you were buying a loaf of bread for 12 cedis.
Yeah.
And today you went and then the price has gone to, let's say, 20 cedis.
Yeah.
It means there has been an increment of 8 cedis, right?
Yeah.
So that 8 cedis is what we basically refer to as inflation. You can calculate it in percentage terms to know the percentage of price increase on the loaf of bread. So that's basically inflation. So I've spoken about the causes. Whenever you have higher inflation in an economy, what happens is that it has implications on even the economy itself. It has implications on the firms, that is producers of goods and services, that is local industries. And it also have effect on households or families, as I said. Now, in terms of the economy, you will see that it leads to what is called lack of policy credibility. It tells you that whatever policy the government has put in place is actually not working. It's rather working against us, and then it also actually bar investors from looking at your economy as a lucrative, venue or area or destination for their to come and then invest their hard-earned money into in your economy, and that also affects your foreign exchange inflows and then foreign direct investment inflows and all of that.
Okay, but then now if you were to look at the inflation in the context of Ghana,
yes,
what was our problem, or what was causing the increase in our inflation?
Okay, so initially, the causes of a higher inflation in our country. You remember the Bank of Ghana was made to illegally print about 60 billion, Ghana cedis into the economy just to.
When you say illegally, what do you mean?
They didn't pass through the parliament. They didn't go through parliamentary approval, and then they actually went. So once it's a violation of the law, it was illegal. And the essence of the government at that time doing that was to engage in what is called deficit monetization. The government was running at a deficit. Yeah. So it's more or less technical.
But economically, is this something that ought to have been done, especially when government is running on a deficit?
Yes, it's one of the avenues to salvage the situation, but it's also
by printing currency.
Yes, but actually it is not an efficient move. There are other policy instruments you can actually consider. One of them is expenditure-based fiscal consolidation. Government ought to take a critical look at, its expenditure, cut waste, and ensure that even areas that government is ready to spend, they are actually capital, expenditure, but not consumption. If I say capital expenditure in strategic areas that will actually pay for itself and even give some sort of revenue benefit to the government. But if you push all the money into consumption side, and if you look at the actual administration, you could see that free SHS alone was actually a burden on the neck of the economy. And so that was, a problem. Now, that illegal printing of money, shot up our inflation to a trajectory of about 54%, what people will call hyperinflation. And at that particular level...
You mean by that singular act of printing a 60 billion Ghana cedis?
Yes. You see, basic economics will tell you that if you excessively increase the supply of money into the economy, it's actually gonna cause a lot of money chasing fewer goods, as I stated, as demand a pool, few goods in the economy with a lot of money chasing it, and therefore inflation will actually shoot up. So that is actually the issue. Causes of inflation are enormous, as I have actually outlined. And then if you also don't put in homegrown policies to boost local production, and then you rely heavily on imports, it actually creates a downward pressure on your local currency, as I alluded earlier on. And therefore, when it happens like that, exchange rate volatility will set in, and when it sets in, like I said, importers will have to get more of the local currencies to get fewer of the foreign currencies in order to import the quantity of goods that they want to import. And like I said, they are not for the Christmas, they are profit-oriented entities and individuals, so they will pass on the costs to consumers, and therefore you will see that prices of goods and services will actually go high. And as you said, one of the major causes was that, you see, the planting for food and jobs in the actual administration failed to the extent that the Ghana Buffer Stock Company, where the original mentality or the idea behind it was that government would have bought from local farmers and then store it and then release them at times where there are shortages in the market just to stabilize prices, because the planting for food and jobs actually failed. Farmers, local production was very, very low, and government had to resort to importing from outside to stock that particular, buffer stock company. So you could see that when this new government took over and there were some shortages of free SHS, under the free SHS, there was shortage of food and all of that. You also remember that at the latter part of last year, there were some infested, kind of food commodities that were supplied and all of that. So this government, the quick move that is very, very qualitative move, and it has actually contributed to what we are seeing now, was that the president gave a directive to all government institutions that are directly involved in the acquisition of food commodities that nobody should buy from the farmers. So at that time, farmers were having excess in their barns, in storage, and then they were not getting buyers. And so when the government gave that directive, and institutions in charge of acquiring food commodities, specifically for free SHS and other school feeding and all of that, started buying from farmers, that brought a lot of confidence in the economy, reduced the over-reliance of foreign or imported food commodities, and therefore we tend to reduce our imports quite significantly, and that also relieved the pressure on the cedi, and therefore a contribution factor for the cedi appreciation, as we saw here.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. Let me turn to Zamohene. I'm still particularly interested in inflation from a tax perspective, and I saw you nodding to solution to the $60 billion Ghana cedis was printed by the government of Ghana, which apparently spiraled our inflation. From a tax perspective, what do you think, in addition to that 60 billion, why did we have to fall into an inflation and so high that it affected our economy adversely?
Thank you. I wouldn't want to repeat what has been said. What we have not done well to understand is that inflation when you say inflation is dropping, does not mean that prices are reducing. Okay, but it's just telling us that the rate at which prices are increasing is dropping. So if you bought a good of 200 cedis yesterday or a month ago, it does not necessarily mean that when you are coming to this month, the price is going to go to 180. It may go to 210, but had the inflation not gone up, not reduced from the 51, the hyper status, to the 13 that we are talking about today, you would have gone to buy it at maybe 290. So, because
you are saying that when we say inflation is dropping, Ghanaians should not expect that their prices will go down, because you know that immediately they start announcing the fall in inflation. Everybody says that all producers or all sellers should reduce their goods.
That's a misconception. That's something that we really need to correct. So it puts a lot of even pressure on the producers to reduce their prices. The reason because inflation is dropping, it does not necessarily mean that prices are actually reducing. It means that the rate at which the prices are increasing is coming down. So if we continue on that rate, it will come down to a minimal level, maybe 1 or 0. Then we will have price being the same, stable for a period. Then after this, when we begin to see prices reducing, then we are going to either a deflation or a co.
Okay, so then would that mean, from what you said, would that mean that then inflation must drop to 0 and start going to negative? That's when we see prices dropping.
So to equate inflation to prices, that's what we might be thinking. Okay. To see that inflation is dropping, so prices should be dropping. Then we see that inflation come to somewhere 1.0. That's why we see prices dropping. But when we see inflation being a positive figure, it means that prices are increasing. But the positive figure is telling us the rate at which the prices are increasing. So if it is 1, it means that the propensity of a price increasing is 1%. So if we bought something 10 cedis 2 months ago, the probability that it will go to 2.2 or 202 the next day or next 2 days is very low. In this case, then you have gotten to a point of stability.
Okay.
You are at a stable, that's why we have a stable economy.
Okay.
So when you get into a period of hyperinflation, it means that when you buy the good 10 cedis from the shop, by the time you get down the shop and come back, the same within the 5 minutes, by the time you go back, maybe it has gone to 15 cedis. Okay. So countries like the Mozambique and then they experience that. Zimbabwe Zimbabwe experience that. Someone will be selling bread and $50 or $200. You buy it. By the time you even take your money, the price is even increasing.
Yeah.
So it gives you that kind of instability. So I
was even told somewhere last year there was a shop that I think at the point government announced either an increase in inflation or some increase in prices. People were entering the shop to buy goods. They tell them, please hold on. We've heard the price have increased, so hold on. They close the door. Go and increase price. Open it and I can come.
Exactly. So that's the kind of thought that should come on our mind when we see that inflation is either going up or going down.
So to the helpers, Mr. Amuhin is helping us appreciate the fact that when we say inflation is reducing, it doesn't mean prices are reducing. When inflation is increasing, rather, it means that prices are increasing at that inflationary rate. So it means that if the good is 1 cedi and we have inflation of 50%, then it means that you should expect that the next time you go, the good will be 1 cedi 50 pesos.
Exactly. The probability that it will be 1 cedi 70 pesos is high.
So it means that if that 50 pesos reduces to, let's say, that 50% reduces to 10%, then rather expect that the good, instead of increasing to 1 cedi 50 pesos, will only come to 1 cedi 10 pesos.
That's what we are looking at.
Okay.
That's what we're looking at.
So then Ghanaians who are making strong calls for the fact that let's reduce prices because inflation is falling, it means that it's based on misinformation.
Yeah, so that's what there's some misunderstanding of the concept of inflation.
No, because there are a lot of, let me not say economists, but there are a lot of people who are speaking in financial terms to say that so long as inflation has reduced, government must reduce prices. Or sellers and producers must reduce prices.
It's not necessarily so. It's not necessarily so. It means that the rates. It means that when inflation is dropping and prices are increasing, then we have a cause that inflation is dropping, but prices are increasing, and therefore we do not understand it. It should rather be what? Either be stable, or the rate at which the prices are increasing is so high compared to the rate of inflation.
Yeah.
And at times in our Ghana,
so that means that then you don't have a problem with when the GPRTU and the drivers say they are not going to reduce prices.
Yeah, to a large extent because of the content. The content of their pricing. Yeah. The content of their pricing, the fuel and then the parts and co. If the reduction in prices, a reduction in some of the stability affects a lot of their content. Like fuel, when we had a lot of fuel, reduction in fuel price.
Because I was going to come there and say that if the inflation does not affect prices, but we see that when inflation starts dropping, fuel price also start dropping. Or is the fuel price not precedent or conditioned on the increase in inflation?
So it is the fuel price drop. It is not inflation that makes fuel price dropping. It's the fuel price dropping that makes inflation drops.
Okay. So it's rather the reverse.
It's the reverse. So if the fuel price increasing, that will make inflation increase. And the increase in fuel price, it doesn't relate to inflation. It mostly on the components of the crude prices and then the exchange rates, particularly the dollar to cedi, the exchange rate, and maybe the taxes that comes, the tax component, which particular one which is coming, government is bringing in. Okay, so these are the ones.
So fuel prices rather may push inflation. But inflation is not that which will push
fuel prices.
Down.
Because the reason that fuel price may push inflation is that fuel price is a huge component in the basket of calculating inflation.
Okay.
So if price of maybe flour or a commodity that is not so much hugely consumed, is reduced, it will go down, but it may not have a significant effect on the full basket, because in calculating inflation, it is not only one item that is used. There are so many items. Real estate, we look at the fuel, we look at food, commodity, we go to the Makola and get prices, we go to the Kantamanto, look at these are all the things that come into it. So that at the end of the day, we look at a lot of components, it could be about 100 or even 200, that are put together to determine that because of the price movement from this period to this period, this is the inflation. So within that period, some may be going up, some may be going down. So if the bulk in the basket, like fuel, goes down, the ability to pull the inflation down is high. And if the other items which do not have a lot of effect in the basket goes down, you will say that these things are going down, but the ability to push the inflation down is very low. So normally, it's actually the prices normally that actually pull the inflation down. But looking at it from the tax perspective, from the tax perspective, tax is looking at we are taxing you either based on your property that you are owing, either on your revenue, your consumption, or your profit. Okay. So if we are taxing you based on your revenue, or you are based on your revenue, and there's a period of inflation, and prices are up, it means that the ability of consumers to be able to purchase from you will be low. In this case, revenue generation will go down. When revenue generation goes down, analytically, it will affect profit of organization. So corporate income tax will definitely be going down. But another side of it is that because part of tax is consumption tax, which is like the VAT, the customs and co. Whilst inflation is going up, and then their prices are also going up, they'll also be pulling the revenue of the consumption taxes up. Because if there is an increase in the price of fuel, there's an increase in the price of fuel, then the consumption taxes which are based on percentage of the value of the goods that you consume. Once the value goes up, then the outcome of the percentage will also go up. There's a 21.9% that we are currently experiencing, hoping that in the next tax reviews, government will be able to reduce those one and come to the go to the old system whereby we're not having the splitted levies and then the VAT system, but have that single standard one. So once the inflation is going up, part of the consumption tax is going up. Okay, and our Ghana tax system is such a manner that you have part of it that you can claim back, others that you can't claim, so it become cost. So it ends up increasing the cost, part of it increasing the cost of production. When the cost of production is going up, Doc is here, let us understand. When the cost of production is going up, it definitely was going to add up to your pricing. Yeah. When the pricing is, as soon as the pricing goes up, what's going to be it comes to going to have a rippling effect. Okay. So it's going to have another pricing going up, so the price will go up again. When the price goes up, the tax is waiting. The tax will be put on it again. Then it will go back, increase the cost again. Then it will add it to the price again because the producer is not for that Christmas. Yeah. So we definitely want to make a margin depending on the elasticity of even of his product. So if his products are very inelastic, it means that he can maintain his margin. You increase your taxes. You only push the taxes to the.
But by inelastic, what do you mean for purpose of our?
So when we're talking about inelastic, because Doc is here, I'm quite careful trying to use economic jargons.
Feel free, Doc is generous.
So when we say inelastic, we're saying that the consumers are not sensitive to the prices. So that if the price goes, no matter how the price go up,
we'll still buy. So like water is inelastic.
Yeah, yes. So water inelastic. Okay. So no matter how it is, even some goods, because that's
you
we
can
have
also talk
prestige.
of salt.
Yes, salt. Yes. So some sugar, and now even some goods have been so stable. Rice, we continue to buy.
You say because now salt prices have gone high, when you eat food, you put salt in it. Maybe you can reduce the salt.
Unless the doctor help us, give us a medical prescription that we don't have to eat.
But a lot of them, they don't mind.
You see, the whole thing borders on consumer behavior and what the body requires.
Yeah.
So what happens is that there are some commodities that we use in our domestic homes. It doesn't matter the price, we will still want to consume the same thing.
But even fuel, we can say fuel is.
Yes, I was going there. Yes,
no matter what, you buy the fuel.
Exactly, because you need it to commute yourself to and from wherever you
can't walk. If you live at Madina and you work at Accra, you can see fuel prices are high, so you
and
walk.
When we say something is inelastic, it doesn't mean that there is no sensitivity. The sensitivity is there, but it is highly significant. Sorry, highly insignificant. So, for example, the fuel that you just made mention of, if fuel prices go high, people may respond by reducing the number of kilometers they drive. You understand? Or people who take public transport may want to, if they take it from their house, this time they want to maybe walk to the main road before they come. But those movement,
not going to change.
It's not going to change exactly. So that is what it means by inelastic kind of a demand or a supply kind of a movement.
So when you try to bring taxes along with the inflation, then we need to look at this effect. So with government coming in with the implementing it, so government should at least expect as soon as it comes in, there's going to be an effect because fuel affects almost everything. So basically,
so let me add a little on it. When the tax, whenever taxes go high, for example, we need to look at something called tax incidence. In taxation, we have something called tax incidence. And what it means is that we are looking at the ultimate bearer of the burden, that the tax will actually impose. So I don't want to go to progressive and regressive, but let's look at consumer supplier. So if the taxes is actually directly on production, what is going to happen is that the cost of production is going to be higher. Because you see, these people actually require raw materials to be able to produce. Now, when they produce, they are supposed to pay taxes. There's some raw materials that if you buy or if you acquire, you have to pay for VAT. So let's take for instance, if VAT has gone higher, definitely the price of the cost of raw material is also going to increase marginally. You understand? And so it is going to make the cost of production higher. Now, even if it is not about acquiring the raw materials, government imposes taxes on income or profit the firm makes. So, for example, if government says that I've increased, let's say, tax by X margin, you understand? Like I always say, you, the producer, you are producing with the purpose of making profit. One, to sustain the organization and also take care of yourself and then settle, your employees and all of that. So that tax that has come, definitely it is going to bring a marginal increment in the prices because the producer will want to share, if not passing on everything to the consumer, will want to share that marginal tax increment with the consumer. And so when it happens like that, there's going to be a marginal increase in prices. And an increase in price, as we have said, contributes to inflation. So that is how the linkage is all about. Now, he also made mention of some, if you look at the goods, the basket of goods and services that Statistical Service uses to compute inflation. You see, we have something called core inflation. Now, the core inflation is actually computed from the headline inflation by taking away commodities that have high volatile pricing or prices. And one of them is what is called the food commodity. You see that food prices are easily, always on skyrocketing, ups and down, ups and down. That volatility is there. And then we have energy, you understand? So energy, we are talking about fuel, electricity, and all of that. These two things, if you take them out of the total inflation, then you get what is called the core inflation. That is what the Bank of Ghana used to make forecasting. and then also, use it to respond stability of the economy, and then make the necessary monetary policy, kind of policies around that. So whenever you see these two components, skyrocketing or at a high volatile rate, it will definitely trigger inflation. So the question is, what are the causes of this inflation drop that we are seeing? One of them is as a result of a reduction in fuel prices that we have seen over time. Remember, I've just said that fuel price or energy is one of the commodities with high volatile prices, and so anytime it goes up, it affects the snowball effect, or the domino effect is so high that it affects every aspect of the supply chain, and therefore you will see that it will trigger higher inflation. So once the government for the past two quarters and some months has been able to reduce fuel prices at the energy sector, you could see that that has been able to help us reduce the rate at which prices will increase. Just as he explained, inflation drop does not necessarily connote that prices of goods and services are supposed to go down. It is rather when exchange rate, if exchange rate goes down, or if your currency, actually appreciate, that is where we see that there is some sort of direct linkage with the prices of goods and services. But for inflation, it's just a measure of the speed at which prices of goods and services are supposed to move, either by increasing, let me use the word change, either by increasing or reducing. So it does not necessarily mean that we moving from 18.4 as at the end of as at the end of May to 13.7 as at the end of June implies that prices are supposed to go down. It's just that the rate at which prices were increasing, in May has slowed when you
prices
compare.
Must not increase
Exactly. So let me go back to the causes. You will see that tight monetary stance by the Bank of Ghana has contributed to this.
Okay.
You understand? Immediately this government took over, they increased the monetary policy rate from 25 point something, is it 27 point something to 28. The reason the Bank of Ghana did that was the fact that it was embarking on what is called inflation stability targeting. What they were seeking to do is that, when the monetary policy rate increases, the cost of credit also increases, and therefore businesses and consumers, in terms of loan, it becomes very costly for them to take loan. And so that in its sense will reduce the amount of money available in the system, in the hands of businesses and in the hands of consumers, to chase fewer goods and services within the economy. So that is what the Bank of Ghana has been able to do. And if you look at that same trajectory, at the end of the first quarter, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana went to meet just to review it. Now, looking at the data and the trend at which we were going, they felt that it was economically prudent to maintain the rate. So throughout the first quarter and the second quarter, it has been around 28 point something, and that is contributing significantly to the consistent downward trend of the inflation. That is number one. Number two, I made mention of what is called the exchange rate dynamics. You will see that from January up till now, the dollar, the foreign currencies, and then their fight against our local currency has been in positive trend in our favor. You could see that between January up till now, the CD to dollar, CD has been able to appreciate by 42% against the US dollar. You understand? The last time I checked, it was 20 something, but the latest data I got from the Bank of Ghana is telling you that it has actually appreciated against the US dollar by 42%, which is very, very significant. And so you could see that because the exchange rate has been stabilized or the CD has appreciated, as I made mention of, most of the things that we use in this country in terms of consumption and for production are imported. For example, agricultural input, most of agricultural input like fertilizer, chemicals, and all of that are imported. The food we consume like rice and oat and the rest are also, even chicken, are also imported.
Yeah.
So once the currency has been stable,
you're talking about the tomatoes.
Yes. Even onion we import from Burkina and all of that, and all this we need the foreign currency. So once your CD has actually appreciated, it means that now importers need fewer local currency to get more of the foreign currency, and therefore prices, what is called the import cost pass through, has been stabilized or has reduced, and therefore you see that it will affect the rate at which your prices of goods and services within your economy will have to increase. That is what is called the inflation. Then the third one is that, you see, this government, when they came, they have also engaged in what is called expenditure-based fiscal consolidation. That is where the finance minister came out and said, I'm going to cut waste. I'm not going to, invest or spend in, useless ventures and all of that. So that particular expenditure, expenditure-based fiscal consolidation has been able to reduce deficit monetization, where always the Bank of Ghana has to either print extra money or even come in with the CD and the little reserve we have to come and bail out, public, state-owned enterprises, and even government help to support or fund government budget and all of that. What is normally in economy, we call it pseudo fiscal activities. You understand? So that particular, these homegrown approaches have actually helped, to make us actually enjoy the trend at which we are actually going. And if this one continues, the long-term effect is that it will also cause our exchange rate to move, the cedi to appreciate again further against the foreign currencies, the major foreign currencies. So these are the key drivers. And I must, give credit to the fiscal policy managers of the economy and the monetary, policy managers of the economy. That intercausal relationship or the coordinated, relationship that they have is actually doing the magic. Now, my point at Accra is that, you see, I will caution Ghanaians not to be too excited about, what is happening yet. And if I say, I'm not saying that the government is not doing it, I give thumbs up to the government. Whatever we are seeing now, it means that something good is happening. But my question is, are we seeing the government doing the right thing at this time for which we are seeing all this benefit because we are under an IMF program? That is one thing that people are not thinking of. Look, this economic cyclical something trend that we go through, we go to IMF, and under IMF, our government tend to behave very well. They discipline themselves. They do the right thing within that particular time frame, and we begin to see the economy showing up and becoming very strong. Immediately we leave the IMF, you could see that there is fiscal space for government, and so they go on borrowing spree and then expenditure spree and spend in areas. Last 2 weeks when we came, we were talking, me and Dr. Boabin also were talking about government is investing in areas that are not actually profitable to the state. So government would then go back because now there's fiscal space. They spend anyhow and do anything anyhow, and then at the end of the day we come back to IMF. For me, the actual test of this particular government, the only time I will see that the government really means business and they intend to do the right thing to move us from where we are to the next level is when we are out of IMF. Yes, are they going to continue to do the right things that they are doing now for us to see the good result that we are enjoying or we are seeing now? If that happens, then I know that the Mahama we knew, Mahama Part 1 is totally different from the Mahama Part 2 that we have now, and therefore he means to reset the economy. Another area,
so means that you are saying that there's a possibility that the drop in inflation we are enjoying now is only because of the IMF.
Yes, because you see, the IMF has conditionalities.
Yeah,
you understand. Whenever you go under IMF program, your economy is in tatters. And for them to help you revamp your economy and bring it to normality, they give you certain conditions. And that conditions is tied to the disbursement of the funds that you are going for.
But if they keep us with these conditionalities and they realize that has helped us, why don't we learn?
So that is what I'm saying, that you see, Ghanaian government after government, and not only this government, we actually don't learn, and we always want the lazy man approach. Let us spend uselessly, excuse my language, I will be ruthless, stupidly, and then bring the economy on its knees. And the lazy man's approach is add more taxes and then burden the people. And so at the end of the day, we go through this cycle and we are at one point. But I am looking, that's why I said that the real test will come when this government proves to me that after the IMF, we are still continue doing what we are doing, for which we are seeing the benefit. Then I will say that at least after Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, we have gotten one government that is willing to do the right thing, invest in right areas, like the 24-hour economy. We spoke about it some time ago here. I just received the policy document just yesterday. I have not been able to go through thoroughly, but if looking at the preambles, the executive summary and the things, and the key things that I just looked at, brushing through the document, if government will continue to do what is actually spelled over there without political kind of connotation behind it, let us do it to woo vote, but they are looking at the sustainability aspect, then what me and Dr. Boabin last 2 weeks were speaking about in terms of investing strategically and wisely is actually going to be the game changer over here as far as that particular policy is concerned. So for me, inflation going down and what have you, they are good. In fact, like I said, the implication is that it actually, going to help the government. It tells you that there's policy credibility. Whatever they are doing is actually showing the good result. It's also telling you that foreign investors are going to now turn their eyes at Ghana and say that, hey, it means this place is a good place for me to invest, and that will bring in more foreign direct investment. That is very good. And then in the global market, whenever we want to go for maybe some sort of funding in terms of Eurobond, loan to come and do some sort of important capital expenditure, because of our outlook, we stand a chance of getting a good deal. Remember, I told you that the last time when we're talking about the Fitch, ratings, we are saying that, when you have a bad rating, what it means is that if you go to the market, even if they will lend you the money, because of the risk around you, they will give it to you at a higher interest rate. This time, looking at the outlook that we are having, it tells that if you go to the market, if the government decides to go now, we will easily get it, and also at a lower interest rate. That is very good. In terms of firms, it is gonna, enable them to plan, because he spoke about stability. So there's a relative stability in there. So it's going to help businesses to plan. Whenever we have, this hyperinflation, like he said, you go this morning, you buy something 1 cedi. By the time you come in the afternoon, it is 1 cedi, 50 pesos. In the evening, it is 2 cedi. So businesses are not, able to plan. But with a stable exchange rate and then a lower downward or a downward trend inflation, it is going to help businesses to be able to plan. And then the cost of production is also going to be able to be some marginally, stable or lower for prices of goods and services to be very okay for consumers. Then in terms of households, it increases your purchasing power. And I said purchasing power is about your ability to be able to acquire whatever goods and services that you require at the right quantities with the current disposable income that you have. So it's going to help, boost the purchasing power of household. It's also going to enable household to, increase their savings. Because you see, if you need, let's say 12 cedis to buy a loaf of bread, and then because of the downward trend of inflation, even if there is a price increment, you go and it is 12 cedis, 20 pesos, but not 15 cedis. You are able to, plan around your household budget and then get a significant amount of savings against, bad days and what have you. So the inflation, going down is a good thing. But like we are saying, it doesn't necessarily mean that there should be a direct decrement in the prices of goods and services. What it means is that the speed at which we are supposed to see, price changes, in terms of increment, it has actually slowed down. Let us rather pray to hit, what is called a single digit. When that one also happens, just before I land, when that one also happens, it makes us become highly competitive at the global market in terms of export. Our exporters are going to be able to produce at a relatively stable cost of production, okay? And then when they go to when they get this particular relatively stable cost of production, there's something called economies of scale that will marginally set in. Yeah. In this case, they are going to be able to produce more at a lower unit cost so that they can sell more at a lower cost in order to get higher. So in this case, at the global market, because of cost of production stabilized, we are not going to overprice our commodities there to make us less competitive over there. But we're going to be able to sell at the price range that is highly competitive to other competitors from other economies. So the inflation going down is very, very good.
Absolutely, very, very good. And Doctor has taken us to a Saturday morning lecture. We'll take a short breather here so that our listeners and viewers are able to digest and consume the in-depth lecture Doctor has given to us today on inflation. But I'm particularly happy about the fact that we have clarified, especially from Mr. Amohene, that when we say inflation is going higher, doesn't mean, or is reducing, doesn't mean that prices must reduce. Only saying that the rate at which the increase in prices have been going must reduce. We'll take a breather here. When we come back, and I'll be coming to Mr. Amohene for us to look at the new energy sector shortfall and debt repayment levy, which is being introduced to put in the 1 Ghana cedi per liter tax. At least we have set the tone of the fact that inflation is falling. Why then must we come to this point where we have to introduce these levies? And again, coming on the back of Dr. Silva's point that when we are introducing a lot of tax, it looks as though it is a lazy man's way of raising revenue. So we'll come to right after the break. And please don't go away. Still the focus on Z101.9 FM.
Z101.9 FM. Z101.9 FM. Z101.9 FM.
Masa
101.9 FM.
All right, and that's been Pem Hwasem by Samuel Owusu. Thank you very much for staying with us, and still the focus on Z101.9 FM. And we've been discussing inflation drops, fuel levy to take effect. We're looking at the implication of the new fuel levy, which is going to be introduced somewhere next week or next 2 weeks. Mr. Mohini, now let's look at this levy. I mean, what did ESLA not do? Because I think ESLA, I can't recall where exactly it was passed, but it's been in the system for a while. And the purpose of the ESLA was also to resolve some of these energy sector debt. Now, what did the ESLA not be able to do that we are going to bring this one Ghana cedi? Or maybe tell us first, this shortfall and debt repayment levy to introduce 1 Ghana cedi per liter on fuel. What is it? Or why must we have it? Then if you can tell us also what the ESLA could not do that this one is going to do for us.
Okay, right. Thank you. In finance, we look at source of raising finance, or mode of raising finance. And if you look at one way, it could be go for a loan. One way to be sell part of your asset. So Ghana, we have seen Ghana selling some of state assets. Another way would be what generate taxes and co. So this particular one, government opted to use the approach of going by the taxes to be able to resolve the issue that's over there. But why is it the issue? The issue even came about. So we're having this tax because there is a deficit. There's a lot of debt in the energy sector, and majority of it is contributed by the power. So a lot of the IPPs are being owned, and then it's coming from the ECG inability to generate enough revenue to pay. And if you look at the ECG, has a wastage percentage of about 32%. So every 100 CD or every 100% or mega that we produce, maybe about 32% of it go waste. Okay, and then the 68 that does not go waste, ability to sell or to collect the revenue from.
Sorry, help me understand. When you say goes waste, what does it mean?
So we say going waste is that one, either could not have been accounted for. Okay, it go through the system, the terminal, the rail transmitters go through that we have not been able to identify where actually either it ended up being used and go. So there are some of the ways that we say that it goes waste. There are a couple of reasons for it, but this has happened, and it's also helping or it's contributing to ECG not being able to generate enough revenue to pay the power producers. So it has also led to a lot of debt over there. And I'm only using ECG as a test case. So we have a lot of debt over there. Say ESLA, what we have to bring this in because the amount that ESLA was generating was not that enough to cover the amount of debt that was being accumulated every time. So I just look at 2.5.
But before they started the ESLA, had they not made projections knowing that this is the amount we need and these are the estimations we are going to be raising? And especially with levies in there, I mean, especially we've discussed earlier that fuel can be inelastic. So wouldn't they have made projections for them to know that this is how it's going to go and this is what we are going to recover?
So a lot of them goes into management issues, okay? Management and then projections, that as whether someone made the right projections or not. The management as because ability to be able to follow the line, the tone, the plans that we laid down to be able to achieve the projections that we made. So that's where it also comes in. So we've been able to put in place enough measures to be able to ensure that this 32% wastage has been reduced to maybe 20. Is the 32% wastage? Is it the global industrial acceptable waste that accepted globally? So if you have not been able to put in place management measures to ensure that the waste is reduced, you will definitely not be able to recover all the revenue that you're supposed to recover. So when you're doing your projection, you will never put over the 32 waste. Okay, so you'll be putting the global acceptable level. If it's 25 or if it's 15, that's what you're going to put over there.
Yeah.
But if you use 15 in your projection and then you are now having 32, it means that the difference is quite significant. 17 is going to affect you a lot because your margin may not be as 17%. So if you're having 17 more than what you budgeted, definitely you're not going to have enough revenue to pay those debts. So because we are having a lot of inefficiency within the energy sector, that is why we are having to have these bills and these levies coming in. And a lot of them are linked. ECG's a limited liability company. And then, but all their contracts, their contracts are being supported by the government. A lot of them with sovereignty bonds and co. So government has a kind of responsibility to ensure that all these ones are paid. So if you look at the contract, a lot of the components are being delivered by government as well. So for you not being able to generate enough revenue to be able to pay for the oil or to pay the IPPs and co, to pay for the gas, it means that you need to find other means to generate that revenue. And that's why when government look at all the sources, should I sell a state asset? Should I have any other state resources that is generating revenue? And which of the state companies is profitable today? Practically almost none. Okay. So in that case,
that's actually a sad reality.
Yes, practically almost none. So in that case, government is left in a very tight corner. Where else do I have to go? Tax. So that is one of the reasons.
But then never we bring in what doctor keeps saying, that it's just a lazy way of raising money.
It is a lazy
to burden the ordinary Ghanaian.
Yes, it is a lazy way to burden Ghanaians. And even in Ghana, there are few people that pay tax. So that is one of the reasons tax rates are quite high. Because if government needs
so it means that I'm being punished for just being compliant. Because I decide that I'm going to put myself in a tax bracket, I'm paying so much. Somebody decides to run away and say, hey, you are the best person.
Permit me to tell you one story that a lecturer, when I was doing my CA about 15 years ago, told us. So one went to GRA to say, declare his taxes. I want to pay my taxes, and he paid it. The next month, they were in his office to assess him. The next month, they came again. And the next year, his tax has really gone up. He said, I'll never go there again. So just like to say that for you going to bringing yourself into the tax bracket, you are being punished. So
because I know an office where they decide to pay tax. Now, it was just a startup. The tax will make some assessment and say they owe tax of 2 million. Then, like, since our entire income in this office, it's not even up 2 million. Now, this person recalls that in his former office, they never paid tax. And for years, they're operating normally.
So that's that's what it is. So that's the reality that we are facing as Ghana. Okay. So we have about 33 million population. We have the working population, which is also quite high, but the population that is paying tax is very low. So in this case, when government needs to generate revenue, and government is not able to bring in an FDI, it's either a loan or bring an FDI, sell a state property, the best way to go and do tax. Now, when government decides to go and do tax, the government look at how much do I need to raise. So if I need to raise a 10 billion for this particular project, if we have the energy debt is 20 billion or 10 billion today, and government says I want to generate tax to pay, and it's in 2 months I levy 50 pesos and I can generate a 20 billion or 10 billion. Government will do 50 pesos and generate it. But because there are few people that pay the tax, what will happen is that government will have to increase the rate so that it will enable government to be able to generate the required amount. So it's one of the reasons why the tax rates are quite high.
Yeah. So
I'm not saying this to say that this 1%, the 1 cedi is actually needed. In my opinion, when I saw it, I said, why do you want to bring in this at this time? Forgetting that energy or fuel is going to have a ripple effect. It's going to affect production. It's
inflation and all that.
Yes. Now we are saying that inflation should come down. So all the producers, they are all holding on for a while. They want to see the effect of this because they are all supposed to bring the even more. We are even appealing to bring your production, your cost down, bring your costs down. They are all holding on. The reason is that as soon as this come in, it's going to give them a reason to maintain their prices.
Yeah.
Okay. So they are only waiting. It may not necessarily lead to increase in price. It may
at least not bring it down.
Justify why they should maintain their prices. So when I saw it, I was like, why do you want to bring this at this time? So,
but curiously, let me take you back a little, where you mentioned that with the ESLA, I mean, by the time they realized that ESLA's money was unable to pay the debt, mismanagement, and all that. Then what is going to be different in this new one? Because the understanding is that this one city is going to reduce our debt. But don't you foresee that we would come back a few years' time and come and say that, oh, this tax could not even pay our debt. So now let's come up with a new tax amount.
Yeah, so that's one sad side of it, that we have a tax that is purported to be used for particular purpose. One of the Adam Smith, one of the principles that you talk about taxation.
We're told he's the father of economics.
Yes, when he was talking about taxation, one of the explanations he gives was what the taxpayer must know what it's being used for, and it might be used for that. Okay, so one, if you come for ESLA, and the taxpayer knows that you're going to use to defray energy debt, and you don't use for that, and you come for another one, and you don't use for that, you are not going by a good principle of taxation. That's not a good principle of taxation. So, it is incumbent on the handlers of the finance to ensure that once the debt is going up, definitely, and you are collecting this amount of money, you have to do just to Ghanaians and make sure you use it to defray that. Because if you don't do it, it will definitely not go down, and it will go up. The next government, or even your government, or the next 10 years, will come back to the same issue, and we have to pay more. And that's one of the challenges we are facing today. So it is a bit of something that we have to even have a kind of trust in government, that this money you are going to collect, you are going to use it to defray the debt. If you check, you have a conversation with the IPPs, it's quite scary. That there are a lot of liabilities that are being owed on them, and then the kind of liabilities that are also being owed on the suppliers of the gas and then the fuel and coal. A lot of we are aware of the Doomsaw issue that came some years ago before the 2016, and a lot of them people talking about generation and coal. A lot of them for finance because of debt, because of inability to pay and coal. When government was able to raise money to be able to make payments, the oil flew, and then we were able to have power. When 2020, prior to the election, when we began having some issue of a shortage, power shortage in coal, it was issue of money. When we've been prior to the 2024 elections, we've had issue of Doom CAC and then Doom. All this coming in. What was causing it? Because all these are debts. Because you have financial obligations. Pay me by this date. You don't pay, and I keep renewing your contract or renewing your credit, and you don't pay to a point, I'll cut off the flow of the oil. And how much of it do we produce ourselves? A lot of them we import them. So in this case, once we are not able to pay, this issue of doing so, it will definitely come back. So if we are bringing in a kind of tax to defray it, we definitely must put in measures to ensure that as soon as this tax is collected, it is well ring-fenced and used to defray this liability. Other than that, we will definitely come back to it.
That's interesting. Dr. Sifi, let me hear your thoughts on it, on this introduction of 1 CD on every liter of products we buy, petroleum products.
All right, so thank you once again. First of all, we need to understand that when you come to our energy sector, all is not well. In fact, as at the time Mahama I was leaving office in 2017, our energy sector levy was around, I think, 2 billion. And that was not only Mahama I's, cost, but it actually started from Rawlings through Kufuor, and then Mills, and then, the second part, Mahama, and all of that. Now, when MPP came for the 8 years, they added approximately $1 billion United States dollars to our debt stock.
Yeah.
Now, Atakra, if you look at our pricing, the price calibration of the fuel prices at the pump, you could see that if everything were to be well at the energy sector, Ghanaians will have to pay 3 cedis, 27 pesos less than what we are paying now. But we are paying 3.27 cedis more because of the fact that for the past, since 1999 up till 2020, let's say 4, government has introduced about 11, levies, taxes, and margins on our fuel pricing. And if I may take you through some of them, I will not have time to mention the purpose.
Yeah.
In 1999, Rawlings introduced what is called road fund levy. The purpose was to generate some extra fund to maintain our roads. Then 2003, we came to energy debt recovery levy. If you remember, we were having some challenges. Then we came to 2005 under the same President Kufuor. He introduced what is called energy fund levy. Then fast forward, again 2005, we have primary distribution margin. So 2003, 2005, 2003, 2005, about 3 different levies were introduced. Then we come to price stabilization and recovery levy. Also there, we have sanitation and pollution levy. Even the sanitation that a levy was imposed on the fuel for us to take care of that. Then we have what is called energy sector recovery levy. That is called the ESLA, the popular ESLA.
Yeah.
Then we came to what is called the BOST margin. We have fuel marketing margin. We have special petroleum tax, and then we have uniform petroleum price fund and all of that. Then the newly proposed amended energy sector levy, which is called the 1 liter 1 cedi. Now, Atakra, if you are owing, you have to find a way to pay.
Absolutely.
No two ways about it.
Absolutely.
And we need to hold the bull by the horn and tell ourselves the truth. That if we don't do something about this huge debt overhang in the energy sector, we're gonna, plunge this economy into serious crisis. Especially the 24-hour economy will not be successful, because every expert, including myself, have actually concluded that 24-hour economy hinges on stable, sustainable, reliable, and affordable, power to be able to power the various sectors that will drive the 24-hour economy agenda. Otherwise, we should forget about it. So we need to find a way to pay. But there is something that I need to make mention of. You see, the challenge I have about this particular levy is that, or I have with the government for the introduction of this particular levy, is that, you see, there should have been some sort of homework that the government ought to do, for which I am not seeing that it is being done. Look, Atakra, our power sector, our energy sector is actually grappled with several, mismanagement and inefficiency factors. The first one is corruption factors, which include procurement irregularities, inflated contract, embezzlement, lack of transparency in financial transactions. Government has not done, I've not seen government doing anything about it. Until we tackle that, and look, that corruption factors alone, in terms of its contribution to the total energy sector debt that we are having, is 20%, which is about 500 million United States dollars. Just corruption alone. Then we come to inefficiency factors, where I talk about what is called technical and commercial losses, operational inefficiencies, incompetent staff, political and incompetent staff as a result of political appointment and all of that. That alone is also causing us, contribute to about 50% of the total energy sector debt. So the $3 billion that we have, $1.5 billion United States dollars is as a result of, these inefficiencies. You understand? And that is one of the reasons some of us, me, I am against this privatization of electricity and what have you. The answer is not privatization. The answer is about, dealing with these fundamental issues. And in terms of 50%, that constitutes about 1.25 billion, United States dollars in terms of, inefficiencies alone, then political interference, which leads to political interference in terms of tariff setting during election campaign and what have you, election years and what have you. He made mention of 2024. Yeah. Politicians are scared of doing the right thing, and so they try to subsidize, or instead of triggering a tariff increment, they will not do it. They say, it's a political season. If you increase that, it will go against us. So hold on. That alone, and then including appointment of unqualified personnel. I made mention of incompetent staff. And then short-term subsidy measures for electoral gains, I've just made mention of. They also constitute about 30% of the debt. And in terms of monetary value, it's about 750 million United States dollars. So if you have not been able to address these issues, and you come and then introduce extra levy, or you amend an existing levy to bring in 1 Ghana cedis, it's like building a mansion on a sand. Because already the 11 that we have, plus the one that you are coming making 12, has not been able to address or resolve the issue, because the causal factors of this particular energy sector debt have not been addressed. That is the corruption factors, the inefficiency factors, and the political factors. Until these things are addressed, I have a problem. And I just as he concluded, we're gonna sit here next year or some years to come and then talk of or count our losses again in terms of increment. But there is one thing that I need to also educate people about, and that is where I have problem with the communication machinery of government. Listening to the finance minister on the day that he was actually pushing for this particular amendment to be made on the floor of Parliament, the impression and the understanding I had was that it's not like government is going to impose 1 Ghana cedis on every litre that we buy. What he was seeking to put across was that because of the cedi appreciation and the turnout of global oil prices, we are enjoying some sort of reduction. Is that not the case? Yeah. So what government is seeking to do is that, for example, if the next price review window by the NPA and the OMCs happens to tell us that, okay, now we are supposed to reduce prices, consumers are going to enjoy a price reduction of 2 cedis. What government is saying is that 2 cedis reduction will not be given in 100% to consumers. But government will save 1 cedi out of it and then allow consumers to enjoy 1 cedi reduction instead of the 2 Ghana cedis. So that 1 cedi government has withheld, he will use it, accumulate it, and use it to offset the energy sector, debt. So it's not like prices of fuel are going to go up as a result of, this particular levy. The understanding I had, and even yesterday night, when I saw the topic, I went online, picked that particular debate, that particular statement that he made, and re-listened, and the understanding is that fuel prices are not going to be going up as a result of 1 Ghana cedi levy, but it's just that whatever reduction that you are going to enjoy, government is going to take 1 cedi out of it and then use it to, offset the energy sector levy, which is a brilliant idea. But the question is it sustainable? Yeah. And are we going to always enjoy, a reduction that is even up to 1 cedi? What if maybe the next price window, the reduction that ought to come is just 50 pesos? Of course, we will want to say that, okay, once it is 50, you government take it. At least it's 50% of what you wanted to take out. But what is government going to achieve that 1 cedi? So that is where I think the government communicators, including government itself, has to come out and then educate people. And the rushing nature that they actually used also makes it a bit questionable. Yeah. I don't know what is actually behind them, making them take this particular hasty decision. Because you see, they promised, in their campaign and even in the State of the Nation's address, the president assured us that he's going to carry us along, isn't it? Yeah. So what is so unique about this thing that they have to go on a speedy, move like that? Couldn't they have taken time to at least communicate or allow a debate, on the floor of Parliament, and then in the public domain, CSOs, experts in that particular area? But
I thought that was why they suspended the implementation earlier. I think it ought to have come even about.
Yeah, the suspension came, not to cut you, came as a result of 2 factors. One, the backlash. And then because people really did not understand.
Yeah, and also to engage.
Because me myself, I really didn't understand until I went back to listen to the finance minister on the floor of parliament, his debate on that.
Right.
And then number two, Iran-Israel war also came, and then the government was not too sure whether we were going to enjoy that particular, because of price hikes, possible or potential price hikes. That is what made them, suspend. But you could see that now that war is almost, subsiding because of ceasefire and some talks that are ongoing behind the scene. And it seems it has also not really affected the prices a lot, because you see, it's just a little bit.
$5.
Yes, the reason it has not affected it that significantly is because you see, most countries are now going on electric cars. You understand? So these electric cars that have come, that has actually even caused the fuel prices to drop even before the onset of this particular war. So I like the fact that the president said the sector minister and the finance minister should sit down and come out with a model that will predict whether it's going to, cause us to increase our domestic fuel prices, or it's going to help us, still maintain the reduction that we are enjoying. So for me, my conclusion, just to end, is that one, Ghanaians should understand that per the explanation of the finance minister, it's not like currently some stations or some fuel OMCs are selling it at 10 cedis, 99 pesos. It doesn't mean that when that particular levy is implemented, it's going to move from 10 cedis, 99 pesos to 11 cedis, 99 pesos, because government has imposed one cedi on per liter. But what it means is that the reduction that is coming as a result of the appreciation of the currency and the prevailing global market prices, any reduction that comes, government will save 1 cedi out of it and then give the remaining to consumers, just for government to get something to offset that. We wait as they are planning to implement whether that communication that was made by the finance minister on the floor of parliament will change or will remain the same. I've also heard even the GRA boss making the same argument, assuring Ghanaians that there's not going to be any price increment from the angle that the finance minister is coming from. But concluding, my point is that, you see, we shouldn't build mansions on sand. There are fundamental issues, you see, that is actually causing us to experience this huge debt overhang in the energy sector. Let us confront it as a nation, deal with it, and then when it comes to efficiencies, we should ensure that old metering system, bad metering and all of that, energy theft and all of those things have been curtailed, and then corruption, sole sourcing, and then overpricing and all of that have also been dealt with, and the political interference. The president keeps assuring public state-owned enterprise, CEOs that he's not gonna, interfere. I hope, because he's not the first president who has made that particular promise, but I hope as he has started this resetting agenda, for which we are seeing some signals of positivity, he's going to actually go by his word and allow ECG to be managed by competent, qualified people that will bring us, the good result that we all desire. Then if you tell Ghanaians to pay something to offset the debt, we will understand. Otherwise, I think I agree with the masses that it doesn't matter how this particular thing is being done, as the finance minister is alluding to. A levy is a levy, and we need to be very careful, collecting, overburdening people. As I said, lazy man approach. You just go and create the mess, bring the debt, and then come and then burden the ordinary Ghanaian who knows nothing about it, and then the person continues to be overburdened, and the cost of living gets very high, and leading to poverty and all of that.
Absolutely. I'll turn to Mr. Amohene for your final words on this issue.
I think I agree with Doc. The issue of the cause of the debt, that is right, leading us to bring in all the time the levies and the taxes. And it's one important thing that we need to pay attention to. Until we've paid attention to that, no matter the number of the levies that we bring across, we will still continue to add on, because it began with 1, 2, 3, go to 11. So this will be the 12th one. Okay, so we will be going to 13th, and we will still not would have been able to resolve the issue. We need to take a quite holistic approach look at the causes of the waste, the causes of the debt within the system. Because we understand that government is no more subsidizing. Okay, so if the government is no more subsidizing, it practically means that it's a market force that are determining the prices. If the market force are determining the prices, it is fair. Then what is being brought in and sold, we should be able to get the money back. If we are not able to get the money back, then what is the problem? We need to find out what is the root cause of the issues. If we are not able to find out, this issue of the levies, the taxes, and co will continue to stay with us, and which will make the government quite unpopular. In my opinion, the government is getting a very good support since January to now, and it's.
Doctor is saying we shouldn't be too excited because it may only be IMF.
Yes, yes. No, I'm saying that the government is getting very good support, and some of these levies will make government quite unpopular. But if government is able to take steps to avoid or to eradicate the causes of the increasing debt within the sector, within the energy sector, it will rather help government to avoid bringing in this kind of levies onto the people to pay. And in my opinion, it appears that the understanding of the populace is quite different from what the finance minister said at Parliament, and then what others are saying. It's good before the implementation starts, government come in to make it quite clear for people to understand how it's going to be implemented. Though I am not in support of the levies to raise revenue, because levies is just taken from the people. Okay, if I'm not in support, then maybe in the meantime, if it gives government a certain level of space to be able to operate, because a lot of obligation on government. If it gives government a little space to be able to operate, then maybe let's go for that. But government should make sure that within a very shortest possible time, we are able to remove or reduce the waste within the system to bring government back to a system that we are able to pay for the energy consumption that we are actually using within the economy. So
absolutely. So at least you are calling for, or in fact, both members are calling for clarity. Because then it looks like people do not understand exactly how it's going to affect them. And if care is not taken, next time you see price would have been increased. Because they say that they are about, so that's even an anticipatory price increase.
In fact, our market women are waiting for, as soon as it's implemented, no matter how it is,
they are going to increase prices. The price have gone high.
There are 2 full women and the price will be going up. So we read the explanation, the education really need to go to come forward for people to understand how it is, how it's going to be implemented, who is going to be affected, who is going to pay for it.
Absolutely. So at least we can make a call here to the Minister of Finance and to government that we need to make the people understand the exact nature. That is not that because you're going to buy the 16 when the levy comes to force, we're not saying that fuel that costs 11 cedis should jump to 12 cedis. Yeah. And I think that must be made clear, because people do not understand it. In the minds of everybody, now my 11 CD per liter is going to move to 12 CD. So then now the transport operator is waiting. Okay, if it's going to move by 1 CD, I'm going to add my 50 pesos to it. And we are very sure that there's going to be a fight in a trotro the next time it comes up. That's interesting. Thank you very much, my esteemed guests, for spending your Saturday morning with me, Dr. Asifi and Mr. Amohene, for your insightful contribution, especially to the inflation. If nobody has learned anything, at least there's 2 things you should have learned today. That when inflation is going up, it doesn't mean that, or when inflation is coming down, it doesn't mean that prices must fall. And the introduction of this Act 1141 does not mean that fuel prices are going to be increased by 1 cedi necessarily. Thank you very much for the insights, and I'm very sure the conversation will keep going on from here. Thank you very much to my cherished listeners and to viewers, those who joined us on our Facebook platform, those who joined us on radio, or those who joined us from around the world. Many thanks for spending your Saturday morning with us. We are extremely grateful for your time. And again, I must say, we are thankful for yesterday, for the overwhelming support and endorsement of our show. We are particularly grateful to everybody who took time off their holiday schedule to spend it with us. Thank you all. Thank you very much for spending your morning with us. And until we come your way next week, let's still have a conversation about Ghana. We have just one Ghana, and there's a duty on us to ensure that that Ghana, which in 1957 or 1960 came into force, must succeed. We are aware of the fact that by 2063, Africa must succeed. We all must put our shoulder to the wheel to ensure that we succeed by 2063, which will surely come in our lifetime. Have a blessed week. Have a very good weekend. And until we come your way next week, we'll leave with you a Rechitre by Akwabwa. God bless us all.
You're tuned in to Z 101.9 FM, your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio.